Okay.
But we are now live streaming, and hopefully we'll have somebody else join us soon.
Okay.
Okay. But we are now live streaming. There you go.
And do we have quorum?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. So Krista McCracken has joined. Jeanette.
Krista and Jeanette are advisors.
Oh, okay. Excellent. There's
Alicia's here. We have quorum now.
Welcome. Okay.
Yes.
Hopefully Matthew Shoemaker will join us as well because yeah. So we could everybody it's 12. Yeah, it is 12 noon. Great. So we'll call the meeting to order, Virginia.
Yep.
And the first item on the agenda is the adoption of minutes from the February meeting, February 2nd. Do I have someone to move adoption of the minutes? A mover?
I can move it, Alicia.
Thank you, Alicia. And do we have someone to second that motion? If you're waving your hand at me, I don't see.
Actually, sorry, just I gotta back. Alicia, it has to be somebody that was at the meeting.
Oh,
it moves and seconds the minutes.
Can I second them or?
Yeah, so anybody that was present is able to either move or second the adoption.
So I can move or second.
Thanks, Sean.
And I could second Sean's motion.
All right, perfect. So Sean and Jamie.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was chair, if I'm allowed to move and second things. Okay. So resolves that the minutes of the Municipal Heritage Committee meeting of February 2nd, 2022 be approved. And could you have a show of hands?
Colin. Okay, it's carried.
It's carried, excellent.
Yes.
Agenda item number 2 is declaration of pecuniary interest. Hearing none, we'll move forward to adoption of the agenda. We have had a request to add under new business discussion of the change.org petition. So that becomes agenda item 6.5. It's amazing that we have a 3-page agenda today. So as amended, do we have a mover for the adoption of the agenda? Dean has his hand up, I think. And a seconder. Sean has his hand up. There must be a way of fixing this so I'm not seeing. So I want to see the whole gallery. Anyway, so resolve that the agenda for the Municipal Heritage Committee meeting for March 2nd, 2022 be as revised, be presented and approved. So could a show of hands for that motion? Oh, there we are. Oh, I figured out how to do gallery. Okay. So that motion passed, Virginia?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any, item number 4, do you have any business arising from that meeting?
4.1.
Oh,
Bucking House.
Okay.
So in your package, I've included correspondence from Caleb Courier with regards to the Bucking House, and he's looking to seek approval from the committee to move the house to their property as one of the first steps in looking at creating that place as his primary residence. In the package, so, you know, as you can see in there, he noted that going too far down is very costly, trying to go into the design phase if it's something that the committee isn't looking at even approving the move. So he's hoping to get that resolution. He did attach some examples of similar style properties that have been converted into residence, where they have had an addition added onto a log building as an example. He also indicated previously that the profile of the building at the back addition wouldn't exceed the height of the existing building in his notes. And then those were samples of the materials. So yeah, so just looking for if the committee requires additional information, or if you're comfortable at this time looking at allowing and passing a resolution for the move to proceed, and then additional information be brought back with regards to the design at a future committee meeting.
And did his correspondent said that the Conservation Authority has signed off on this?
The Conservation Authority is supportive of the move. So they're going to allow the move of the building to take place onto their property. He did also, in our conversations, express concerns that if it isn't moved onto their property, that and it's able to be used in another way as a residence, that it will continue to go into disrepair, as there won't be anybody that'll really be a steward of the property or the building.
Yeah. Does anyone have a discussion on this topic? Any questions or concerns? So Virginia, from our point of view, would the next step be to compose a motion responding to this request and approving the concept?
Yeah, so we'd have to pass a motion. Is there anything that the committee wants to see added into the motion other than approving the move, as far as what information needs to be brought back after the move takes place and before construction starts? Or are there any?
I would think the committee would want to remain informed on, as the plans develop for movement and construction of the building, that we'd like to remain informed. Can you think of any wording?
He mentions, it's Jeanette, he mentions adhering to the standards and guidelines. Like, is there can we include, some wording about that? He seems to say he's going to do it, but taking that into consideration with what he's doing would be, I think, important for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sorry, I've taken a second to write this. Okay. So other than the standards and guidelines, is there anything else? Prior to construction, provide conceptual drawings and sorry, this is a long one. Okay, so I have resolved that the Municipal Heritage Committee support the move of the Buchan House from the Conservation Authority to I guess Mr. Courier's property on Landside Road, and further that prior to construction, provide drawings and an outline of materials to be used in the addition, and ensure that the standards and guidelines for the conservation of historic places are adhered to during the construction phase. Does that encompass everything?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So the plans would include the square footage of the addition?
Yeah, so he would need to make sure that he's bringing back the plans, the drawings, what are the materials, elevations, prior to, for the committee to review.
Right.
To ensure that it's consistent with the previous conversations that we've had with regards to the elevation not being higher at the back to change the profile.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So do I have a mover for that, for Virginia's motion? Nicole has her hand up. And Sean has his hand up as a seconder. So I guess all in favor of that motion?
Just a second. Alex, Sarah, Caitlin, Winter. So, okay, everybody's in favor? Perfect, thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Just to let you know, I've also just joined the meeting. It's Matt Shoemaker.
Oh, good. Welcome. So that was 4.1. Item number 5 on the agenda is subcommittee task force updates. And the first one on the list is 5.1, the Heritage Register.
Okay, so following our meeting on February 2nd, 2 property owners, as when the article appeared, were reminded that they had not sent in their objections, and we received 2 more objections to being listed at that following the meeting. The correspondence from Algoma District School Board is attached, and the property owner of 15 Summit did send correspondence that was labeled private and confidential. So that property owner as well would like to object to being listed.
So Virginia, has that package of registered properties gone to council yet?
It's going to council on the 21st. It did not go because these 2 objections came forward. So in order to have those addressed, it was easier to bring them back to this meeting than to try to look at dealing with an objection after they've been put forth to council for approval. So I wanted to let the committee weigh in on those 2 properties first.
When we have the other 4 letters of objection from the previous meeting?
Correct.
So is our choice whether we submit the entire package to council as a complete list or pulling out the 6 properties that have objections? Are those 2 choices?
The original resolution is in the minutes, which had the 4 properties pulled as per the previous discussion. It would be to see, I guess are we going to be adding these 2 properties in addition to the 4 that were already passed via resolution on the 2nd of February?
Okay. Is there any discussion on this from the committee? So Virginia, I guess I had the same question I had a month ago, because this is so new, I don't know the process. So is the process that we try to meet with the property owners, or how would you proceed? Or should we just dump it in council's lap and let them deal with it? Or Matt Shoemaker, you're allowed to comment at any time. But
I'm not sure council's going to go all that deep into it, to be honest. But I don't see, just from my thoughts would be, I can't see how we would be able to treat these 2 additional owners differently than the last 4, even though, it'd be nice to have more properties included on the register, but we also have to be consistent in our application of whatever, recommendations we've got.
So in order to be consistent, these 2 properties would be pulled from the list, Virginia?
Yeah, I would agree with Matt that it would be consistent, and then we can have a discussion with the working group to look at, how do we speak to those property owners? Sean, I don't know if you can see everybody on the screen, Jamie, but Sean does have his hand up.
Go ahead.
No worries. Yeah, I think I agree with what's been said, that for the sake of consistency, I think that we owe these property owners the same courtesy that was handed to the last four. However, I also think that it's important, especially for anybody listening or reviewing this meeting before, our removal of of the last four property owners and potentially these two additional ones, if that motion passes, or if there's a motion that gets put forward that passes, is not to say, okie doke, your building's not historical. It's essentially to provide that extra time, as Virginia said, to meet with the property owners, to try to allay any concerns. Being on the heritage register is not the same thing as being designated. Also, it's clear that there's a lot of misconceptions about the impacts of heritage designation and also of being on a heritage register with property values. And of course, property values are complex, but the research that I've seen is actually that having a heritage recognition, whether it's on a register or designation, is actually a positive impact on property values, not just for the subject property, but neighboring properties as well. But again, complex situations go, ultimately the value of a property is whatever somebody's willing to pay for it. So it's, I think that there are a lot of misconceptions to work through. It's understandable that people react with concern if, they, because this is new. Right? It's not something that they're necessarily familiar with, or they may feel constrained. I do know that there's many of you have probably already also seen similar things out and about, but some people have expressed concern even about the removal of the initial four properties from the register, and there's concern about these not being preserved, right? And there was media coverage to that effect as well. And so I think it's important for us to be clear that we're not saying, nope, there's no heritage value here, or of course, we're never going to put this on the register. It's simply to adjust the register so that what goes before council immediately is those properties where we have a clear indication that there isn't more work to be done, there's consent to the general process, and we can get that work done of establishing a heritage register, because currently we don't have one, and then work with these property owners to hopefully get them on board, because it is, I see it as a social good that each of these properties gets on the register.
Alex, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. And yeah, thank you, Sean. I agree with what Sean was saying. I've just started following one of the local heritage Facebook groups just to have a foot in and hear some of the general public comments on social media. And it seems like there is a huge misconception and myths. I wonder, just around having or owning a heritage property, I wonder if the Heritage Committee would think about tabling maybe a one-pager, just myths or misconceptions, and then facts about heritage properties. That would be something that would, it could look really nice, and just, like I said, a one-pager boilerplate kind of, here's what it is. Because what I've been reading online on the Facebook comments from our community, it seems that there are lots of misconceptions, as Sean was saying.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Alex. And I think part of the misconception is the definition of a designated property and the definition of a registered property, because those are two different things. Virginia, did you wave your hand?
I did. No, and I agree with Alex. I think that, and I have been working on a number of updated pieces so that we can do a full kind of revamp of the Heritage website. One of those includes a much more detailed package on heritage designation. And then it also talks about, because we have 3 different kind of categories within Sault Ste. Marie. We've got designated heritage properties. We are going to have a group of properties that are on a heritage register as listed properties. And we also have that other grouping, which was done through the official plan, as locally significant areas. And in the package that I've pulled together, it kind of breaks out the differences between those types of properties and kind of what that looks like. So I'm hoping I should have the last piece that I'm working on, which is kind of related to a heritage permit process. There's no fees attached, so I don't want, but it's just more of an internal process so that we have a really good tracking of when applications are coming through and how we track them for each of those properties. Once I have that piece worked out with our building and planning division, then I'll have that package ready to go out. But hopefully maybe by the next meeting, I'll have a really nice, concise document to share. And then that will help with educating the community, as well as having a frequently asked questions section, which also helps answer a lot of those questions that I think, Alex was speaking to. So those will be something at the next meeting the committee can review.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Sean, are you?
Sorry, yes, just to add to that, I was in Saskatoon a few years ago and actually was able to attend a talk put on by the local heritage association there. They actually did have, I think it was actually put out by the government of Saskatchewan, and of course, acknowledging different legislation, different jurisdictions, but they did have a really helpful pamphlet of sort of like myths and facts about heritage designation. I'm going to see if I can dig it up as an example that might be able to be emulated here.
Okay, I think that you showed us that a couple of years ago when we were on the subcommittee.
Oh, okay.
That sounds familiar. So Virginia, the 2 ideas coming out of this discussion are that the 2 additional properties are removed from the package, and also that we're scheduling a meeting with the property owners in March. Is that your plan?
I think that we should make sure that we have those pieces together, maybe first, and maybe have a meeting of the working group prior to looking at reaching out to the property owners.
Okay. So your timeline for the meeting with the working group would be March, before the next Municipal Heritage Committee meeting?
Yes, I will try to get that in. We've got a couple other meetings we got to squeeze in as well. So, but yeah, we'll try to get that done. And
okay. So then, can you draft a motion to remove these 2 properties from?
Yep. I have resolved that the Municipal Heritage Committee remove 644 Albert Street East and 15 Summit from the list of properties that the Municipal Heritage Committee is recommending that City Council consider for inclusion on the Heritage Register. And further, that 28 properties be brought forward for consideration as identified at the February 2nd, 2022 meeting of the Municipal Heritage Committee, just so we go back to that list that's in the minutes.
Okay. So do I have a mover for Virginia's motion? Matt moves it. And Dean has his hand up to second it. Thank you, Dean. Okay.
We just needed, sorry, Jamie, to interrupt. We just need an all in favor.
I'm sorry, all in favor. I'm moving forward to the next agenda item.
Perfect. Thank you. It's carried.
So that was 5.1.1 and 5.1.2. The next agenda item under new business is 6.1, the Wawanosh Monument.
So included in your package, so actually I'll go back just a little bit. I've been working with the Royal Canadian Legion, as well as the Children of Shinwalk Association, Alumni Association, on looking at the restoration of the Wawanosh Monument. They're actually looking at doing some work around the area as well, in addition to the work that needs to be done to the stone to do the repairs to the monument. So some of the stone is crumbling, and there's some pieces that need to be repointed and reset. So they did receive 2 quotes. The one quote didn't scan through properly, but it came after I sent the package out. It was higher than the low quote that was attached as part of the package. And they're looking for a grant to help with the funding of that project. Jamie, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, do you have a motion that we're going to resolve that the Municipal Heritage approves a designated heritage property grant?
Yeah, the resolution's in there. I did not fill in the amount. So I drafted one, but I did not fill in the amount based off until we had the discussion.
A couple questions on that, Madam Chair.
Sure.
The whole property there is in the process of being redeveloped. Have we considered the option of including the restoration of the monument in the scope of work of the entire building, so that we might get an economy of scale there if it's just an incremental cost addition?
There is, so there is a larger plan. So I was able to sit in on a meeting. So they are doing a bunch of work around that area that it has been included with the overall construction project of that site. And part of that is to actually make the space accessible. Right now, there's not the pathway and that leading so that people can actually go to the monument isn't accessible and easily to get to if people do want to go to that location to reflect. So there is definitely a lot of pieces that they're putting in as part of the overall construction project to support doing work around the monument. But they're not at a point that they were able to share that publicly. So they're just looking for the portion to at least get the repair work done. And then hopefully at a meeting coming up in the next couple months, I'll be able to share more details with the committee once they're ready to proceed with that portion of the project. Does that help answer your question, Matt?
Yes, thanks. The second aspect of my comments was just that I would recommend inserting, I think, is it 3,000 our limit on the heritage grants?
Correct. Yeah. So they're looking for 2,200 for this particular grant.
Sorry. Yes. Okay. I'd look at approving that amount.
Okay. So Matt.
I'll second. This is Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
So moved by Matt Shoemaker and seconded by Sean. Shall we raise our hands to approve the motion? Or
okay, great. Thank you.
any objections? So motion carried. So under new business 6.2, the designated property grant for the Cenotaph.
So this is also an application by the Legion. This property is a little bit interesting. It's the Cenotaph itself sits on provincial property. So they do have permission from the province and the courthouse as the property owners of that location to proceed with work. There's 2 components to this project. The first component, which is what they're looking to receive some funding for, is to actually have the cleaning done on the stonework. It's a little bit labor intensive because they have to work around all of the lead lettering that's inset on a couple of the faces of the cenotaph. So that does require a fair amount of care. The other piece that's included with this grant application is the bronze statue itself needs to have a wax coating and needs to be treated so that it doesn't continue to leach into the stone. So that's where you see that staining that's coming down. They're going to be looking at trying to get that completed on an annual basis to prevent the staining from happening in the future. But they're looking to have this piece of the work done. They're also looking at applying for a grant. So actually have a meeting with them later this week to look at, there are some other things that need to be done to the cenotaph, but they will be applying to the Community War Memorial Fund to look at seeing what funding may be available to do that second phase of the project, which is much more extensive.
Okay, so potentially the amount of the grant, it will not cover the invoice that we're looking at.
Correct. In my discussion,
cut off at 3,000.
yes. So they would actually potentially be. They have a fund through a poppy fund where they're able to raise funds for these types of initiatives. So they'll be utilizing some of the different avenues that they have within the Legion to fund the difference for this project.
Okay. So the motion is in your agenda. Resolve that the Municipal Heritage Committee approve a designated heritage property grant in the amount of 3,000 for cleaning of the cenotaph be approved, and further that payment be rendered upon submission of the paid contractors' invoices and final approval of the project by the Sault Ste. Marie Municipal Heritage Committee. Do we have a mover for that motion?
I think, Alex, are you moving? I see your hands up.
I'm sorry, Alex. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I can move. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Do we have a seconder?
Nicole?
Oh, thank you, Nicole. Alex, did you have a question?
No question.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'll call for approval of the motion. A show of hands. Thank you. That motion carried, Virginia?
Yep, motion's carried. Thanks, Jamie.
Item 6.3 is an application for heritage property tax rebate from 1040 Queen Street.
Yeah, so I can provide some background. 1048 Queen Street is the Eastbourne property, which was previously owned by SR. There's new property owners that are there, and they're interested in joining into the property tax rebate program. So they submitted the application, and it's here for the committee's consideration.
Okay. Does anybody have any
Who
questions?
would like a 45-minute history on William first?
Maybe next time, Matt.
So just for my own education, if the property was in the tax rebate program previously, and the only reason we're looking at this is because the ownership has changed?
Correct. Yes. So the designation carries the property. The heritage easement agreement that goes along with the property tax rebate program follows the owner.
Okay, so they don't have to reapply every year as long as the ownership doesn't change.
Every property owner applies for each tax year, but this is a brand new application. So there's two parts. New property owners will apply to be enrolled in the program, and we'll go through the process of taking it to council for entering into an agreement with that property owner. So that'll be the second piece that I'll do. Okay. And then by the end of May, every property owner that has been enrolled in the program submits an application with their work plan and their updates, which becomes part of our inspection package. And then that report would only go in approved. So there's two different processes attached, whether they're new or if they're previously enrolled.
Okay. So I'll read the motion. Resolve that the Sault Ste. Marie Municipal Heritage Committee approve the Dulu
Oh, sorry. Approve, sorry, it should just be do Lou Cleary, who's the owner of 1048 Queen Street East, be enrolled in the Heritage Property Tax Rebate Program, and that a report be prepared for approval of City Council.
Okay, we need a mover for this motion. Dean has his hand up. And Sean, it looks like he'd like to second this motion. And shall we all approve? Show of hands if we want to approve.
Great, thank you. It's carried.
Good, perfect. So agenda item 6.4 is the doors open topic. And this is the topic that I have added to the agenda. And actually, if we hadn't dealt with COVID, this would have come on the agenda a long time ago, but I'm looking forward to hopefully having a normal tourist season and possibly being able to have a doors open event in the Sioux. So I've mentioned it to Virginia. I've raised the possibility that the revenue from the sale of the heritage calendar could become the budget for the doors open event, if that's the word. And I'm thinking maybe at this point what we're looking for is possibly a show of interest for people to join a subcommittee. Is that your thought, Virginia?
Yeah, I think we can gather a couple people together just to really take a look at it, look at the timing. Jamie, did you see when the virtual doors open was being held time-wise? I was just trying to find it on the website, but I didn't.
I want to say October, but I could be wrong. The provincial one, I think, is October.
So yeah, so I think this could be a really great project that I could have a summer student assist with pulling some of the information together. And then along with some individuals that may be interested in participating in a working group.
Yeah, I think from vaguely what I remember is that if you're going to have a doors open event, and I'm not intending that this be virtual, I would like it to be in person, but I think you have to have 10 sites in your municipality that are part of the tour. We last had one in 2005, Virginia?
It was before I had started with the city.
Yeah.
What I don't, and I've got to try to find more information and we'll have to do some research, is I do know, I believe in the past there was, you had to pay to be part of the doors open, and it was fairly significant. And I think that's been a barrier to participating in an actual live doors open event. So we'd have to, I think initially, if we can get everybody together, we could do some more research and report back to the committee.
I have that fee has been waived. Well, certainly the virtual events, they've waived the fee for virtual, but yeah. So I would be really keen to be on this committee myself, but if anyone else is excited about the doors open event. Oh, she's had her hand up and down for since we got to this agenda item. So thank you, Nicole.
Well, I remember going to the doors open in 2005 with my cousin, and yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, and I think Kathy Fisher was telling me she's got all the doors open signage and whatnot in the attic of the old stone house. Like, so she would be keen. And we talked about this a couple of years ago. Well, I talked about it. Let's be honest, with the Heritage Sites Board. And Kathy, her idea back then was to have maybe a Christmas doors open and just do something small in December with a small number of sites. And that was an idea, 2 or 3 years ago, but we didn't do that either. So, yeah, there's lots of ideas that could be brought back to this committee and talked about further. So we'll do that. We'll do that, Virginia.
Yeah. So My resolution is resolved that the Municipal Heritage Committee appoint N. Curry and J. Van Haften to participate in a working group to investigate a Doors Open event. Be approved.
Okay, we need a mover. Sean's moving it. Can I second it? I'm excited. This is a really good news piece, so it'll be fun to do.
All in favor?
We need to approve. All in favor. I'm sorry. I'm a terrible chair. Show of hands.
You're doing well, Jamie.
Okay. So, oh, I'm sorry. I nearly forgot 6.5, which is newly added to the agenda. And Matthew Shoemaker wanted to talk about the Canada.org petition. I'm sorry, change.org petition.
Yeah, thanks. I've got my little one here in my arms, so you might hear him fussing here. But I think we covered a lot of what I think where the discussion would go in the discussion of removing those heritage properties off the register, or those properties off the heritage register, and then the Q&A and the fact sheet. But I think some outreach to some of these groups where there is a misunderstanding once those documents are prepped would make some sense. Because they're, I think basing their information off of some of what we've seen in the media, which is, which needed a bit of clarification, to be honest. But if we could perhaps direct Virginia to reach out to the organizers of this petition and explain to them what we're doing with the Heritage Register, I think that would go a long way to alleviating some of the perhaps misplaced concern that's out there.
So Matthew, are you suggesting a social media exchange or something more direct?
I would leave it to Virginia to figure that out, but
yeah. And usually when we're reaching out to I would work through our corporate communications office, as we move forward with doing that outreach. So, so that's what I'll talk to Tessa, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, thank you.
I would just, these are my thoughts. I guess, I don't know if that needs a motion in order to have the endorsement of the Municipal Heritage Committee, but certainly, I'd be interested to know if the rest of the committee concurred with those thoughts, or if I'm out on a branch here on my own.
No, well, I saw that come up on social media, and I think it would be a good idea to have a response. Has anyone seen the I think it's under Sue Memories, that petition that came up, and there's been a lot of commenting on the Facebook about.
I believe it was started by old Sue.
Oh, was it Joe Bumbaco? Yeah, you're right. And then it spilled over to other committees. People shared it. Yeah. No, I find it really interesting to read what people are saying. Alex?
No, it's good. Thank you for going over that, because now it makes sense. Yeah, Joe Bumbaco is the guy.
Yeah. I actually contacted Joe when I was working on my heritage calendar, because depending on how that calendar was formatted, he would have been a great resource for pictures that I was identifying. And yeah. So Virginia, do you need a motion for this?
I don't think so. I'll follow up with Tessa following the meeting and see how we go about connecting and providing that information. I'll also work on fine tuning that, so I have those FAQs and some that I can circulate. And if there is anything that the committee feels that's missing, I can get some feedback. But you can email me directly, and then we can go from there. And then we'll have something for the next meeting to share with the committee.
Great. So the last agenda item 7 is correspondence, and the last page of my PDF file is the letter and piece. This looks like an email, Virginia.
Correct, yes.
So have you spoken with this property owner, or could you have any background on this?
So Mr. Metcalf brought forward the designation of the property 76 East Street a few years ago. At that time, the committee decided not to pursue moving forward with having a committee struck to prepare a designation report. So Mr. Metcalf has reached out again to see if the committee is interested in having this property added to the Heritage Register.
So when I first read it, I wasn't sure whether he wanted it designated or registered. So another option is this could be a registered property. Dean, do you
Yes, Jamie, I think that, when Virginia mentioned, we have designation and registration, and then we have a significant historical location. And I think that certainly falls into that venue, that there's been some historical occupants of that building, and that building is still standing, and possibly that's what the committee can look at.
Does he own the property though? I didn't think he did.
Actually, the history there, Matt, is Richard Metcalf lived in the property with his family. At that time, it was his dad operated a garage out of that property, and they lived in the building. And I only know that because I grew up across the street from that location.
So Matt, you're correct. He's not the current property owner. So if we are interested in looking at the property on a heritage register, I'd need to do some reach out to the property owner, as we did with all of the other property owners that we were considering for listing. And then once we've had that conversation, bring that back to the committee for further discussion.
Okay, Sean, did we score that building when we were doing the registration scoring?
I was trying to remember that actually.
Yeah,
I can dig through some notes. We might not have, just because it came up for discussion. I think maybe we had chatted about it. I know we were sympathetic to the idea behind it. Mm-hmm. It is a particularly notable historical function that building served, even if it's, I think it's a great example of heritage or properties that are historically significant, but not necessarily landscape significant, right? They don't have huge footprints, but they still serve really important functions. So I would be open, as one voice on the committee, I would be open to us revisiting this, as maybe first with the Heritage Register, and a conversation with the owner, of course.
Okay.
Could we direct Virginia to reach out to the owner and at least get her preliminary thoughts on? I think it's Jane McGoldrick, so I say her, but her preliminary thoughts on either the register or the heritage designation altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that.
Okay.
And then once I've done that, that can also then be an item that we bring back to the working group for discussion when we meet. And we can revisit the scoring sheets and everything at that time.
Okay, that's a good idea. So that was 7.1. We don't need a motion for that, do we, Virginia?
Not at this time. No, that'll be on my to-do list.
So according to my agenda, the next meeting of this committee is April 6th at noon by video conference. Virginia, did you want to?
Just before we go, I just wanted to thank Jamie and Nicole, and I'm missing somebody that worked on pulling together all the information for Heritage Week and the video posts and that. So I just really wanted to, you know, thank the committee members for that work, and was much appreciated. So yeah, thank you. You did a great job.
Congratulations, Nicole. I was following all of your postings and sharing them and watching them, and yeah, no, those were brilliant. You did an amazing job. Are those things that we can reuse from year to year, do you think?
Probably we could because there's nothing on them. Like I would just have to change like one little thing. I think if it says 2022 on it, but that wouldn't be difficult at all to change that.
Oh, that'd be amazing. So you can archive those somehow?
Yeah, they're all on the Friends of Facebook page right now. So I've left them up. So all the videos are there under a playlist. So you can go on there and check out all the videos, even the videos from our partners.
So you can tell by my questions that I actually had no input on this. I was just the cheering section, and I way beyond my skill set. But Krista, did you have a comment or a question? I saw your hand up briefly.
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Good. No, I thought that was brilliant. So there's no reason we can't do virtual Heritage Week every year, right? So now I need a mover to adjourn our meeting at 12:50. Dean has his hand up, and Sean is seconding. Matthew's thirding. So thanks everybody. That was a good meeting, and we got through quite a long agenda.
Good job, Madam Chair.
Resolved that the meeting now adjourned, Virginia.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.